space, the final frontier.
These are the voyages of the starship Enterprise. Its 5-year mission.
To explore strange new worlds.
To seek out new life and new civilizations.
To boldly go where no one has gone before.
Back to Review the Nerds. I'm Vincent.
And I'm Mike. And today, in honor of the 50th anniversary of Star Trek, we're going to go over the rankings for the movies up to now. And also in preparation for the new Star Trek film, Star Trek Beyond.
50 years of awesome television, awesome movies. Because even some of the bad ones are like it's bad, but it's like kind of fun bad. Sometimes.
When it's at its worst, it's like a heavily produced television episode. So we're going to start our list from worst to greatest. And coming in at the very bottom at number 12 is going to be Star Trek The Final Frontier, a.k.a. The Search for God. Directed by William Shatner.
Directed by William Shatner.
Written.
God damn it. Written by him too?
Yeah.
Wrote, I forgot about that.
Starred. Because he thinks he can do it better than Leonard Nimoy did it in Star Trek 4. I want creative control.
And I got such a great performance out of me in Star Trek 5 because I believe in me so much.
One thing I'll credit William Shatner with, it wasn't totally just about him. He gave moments for a lot of characters in that movie. I mean, everyone had a good moment. I knew this ship like the back of my hand. I just felt that the whole Search for God plot was a little weak. The action and villain were also meh, threat.
Well, I mean, I think there's a little too much comedy in this one, personally, but the biggest problem with movies to me is just, the end of the movie, when they reach Shakari. They say, no ship has ever penetrated the field. And they fly right through it. Don't even lose a single ounce of shield power, fly right through it.
Well, it's because God needed a starship.
What about the other starships that tried to get through?
I guess he didn't like those ones.
And then they get there and they find this thing. It's like, yeah, I'm God. You like my beard? And then, of course, it's not God.
It was also going to create rock monsters. Deleted scene. William Shatner couldn't afford to create enough of them, so that got scrapped. The effects also really suffered. They couldn't get ILM for it, and there was some real budget constraints. But anyways, I don't know, mixed bag. I don't think it's a terrible film. I just think it's the worst of the bunch. But there are moments I think are redeeming in the movie. I like the friendship of the Trinity. I like Spock, McCoy, and Kirk together.
11th place, ladies and gentlemen, we have the first Star Trek film, Star Trek The Motion Picture, a.k.a. Star Trek Fuck. Are they through this thing yet?
Beautiful, by the way, cinematography.
Yeah.
But just music playing over images without anything really happening. Also, kind of trying to take away from 2001: Space Odyssey. Clearly inspired by it.
They had the good concept for the film. It's just like, it just drags in a lot of areas.
Gene Roddenberry had a lot of creative control over the first movie. And Gene Roddenberry's vision of Star Trek is not about space battles, not about bad guys. It's more about exploring the human condition and V'ger questioning its place in the universe. I mean, things we've been asking since the dawn of time. It was actually originally written to be the pilot for the renewal of the Star Trek series. They were going to do Star Trek Phase 2, but they decided to go with the film instead.
Coming in at number 10, we got one from the new franchise, Star Trek Into Darkness, a.k.a. I swear Khan's not the bad guy.
It's really in style lately to try to mislead the audience about who a classic villain is going to be. And the fact that Hollywood apparently has no original ideas. And this is a villain that did not need to have an update.
I like that they got Benedict Cumberbatch.
Great actor.
Yeah, he's a great actor. And there are times, I'll give him this, even though his way different from Ricardo Montalban's version. He does come off as very menacing, and he definitely got into shape to look like buff and stuff, so there are moments where he looks menacing, but there's a few moments where he goes over the top villain.
There's a shit ton of plot holes in this movie, and convenient, contrived narrative. Like the fact that the Admiral would give them these missiles that have Khan's crew on board, and then just be like, don't look in them. Just don't look. Just don't look. Kirk has made it clear that he's a rebel, that he doesn't listen to command. But why are you going to trust him to deliver these bombs and shoot them at the Klingon homeworld without him looking in them?
He's angry enough, he won't look in them.
If the Admiral wanted to get rid of the evidence of Khan's crew, why didn't you shoot the missiles into the sun? He could dispose of them so many different ways. Oh god, the reversal of the Wrath of Khan moment, through the engineer glass. There's no need to remake that moment. And then having Zachary Quinto Spock scream Khan, I cringed.
I like the scene where Spock and Khan are fighting, because in the original series, in that episode...
Space Seed.
Space Seed, right. When Kirk and Khan fight, Khan is really throwing him around the room for 90% of the fight until Kirk hits him with a pipe. But with Spock, it was kind of cool because he's on the same strength level. There's also, the magic healing blood.
Oh, God.
And then the trans-warp teleporter that now, we don't need warp drive anymore because we can beam somebody across the fucking galaxy. You literally eliminate the need for fucking starships. Yet another movie where an entire fucking city gets destroyed.
There was a confusion of who the main villain was. Like, I was like, wait, is Khan the main villain? Or is RoboCop the main villain?
Dead or alive, you're helping me kill the Klingons.
Not to say there isn't moments that they're redeemable. I mean, I think there's some good character moments. One of the things that felt like that their mission statement was for this new series, rebooting the timeline and everything, is that we're going to give you new adventures. We're going to be fresh. And it's like they didn't live up to that promise with this movie. Coming in number 9 is the first Star Trek Next Generation movie, Star Trek Generations.
Yeah.
And this is the event of the passing of the baton from the original cast, or really just Kirk, to the new cast. Led by Jean-Luc Picard, Patrick Stewart.
Yeah, this was an exciting movie for Trekkers because we get to see our two captains come together.
They jump straight from finishing the TV show to doing this movie, and it kind of feels like some things are slapped together, and it's very dark. It's very dimly lit.
The Nexus is a very odd thing. It's a cool idea, but...
There's so many questions.
Yeah.
How the time doesn't exist in it, and how you're able to exit it at any point you want. How do you really know when you're out of the Nexus? I mean, like, because we see inside the Nexus that in your fantasy you can go to any time period, because Kirk is in his past. So when they exit it, how do we know they're actually exiting into the real world? What if the spin top is still spinning at the end, and Picard is still in the Nexus, and everything afterwards is just in his mind?
Oh my god. Why don't you just go back to when you first found a guy on the space station and stop him there? Why go... fucking shit. No, we're gonna go into this fucking shit. Shit. Kirk could have been alive. He could have lived. I get it. You can't fly a starship into the Nexus because it blows it the fuck up. Okay, I get that. Why not take a fucking shuttlecraft, take it within maximum transporter range of the fucking Nexus, and transport yourself into the path of the fucking thing? You already know where it's going. They don't need to go through this whole hubbub about blowing up fucking stars and changing its path. That's all bullshit. It's such a huge plot hole. A huge plot hole.
And the timing when they exit the Nexus to fight the villain is totally off.
The plot holes in this movie are so big you could fly Voyager through it.
I felt very protective of Picard at the end of this movie, because this is his movie. Even though it's passing of the baton and Kirk is in it, it felt very much like Kirk was kind of stealing the spotlight a little bit, and then he gets his big epic death scene.
Yeah.
Oh my. I thought that Brent Spiner did a great job with Data getting his emotion chip and reacting to emotions for the first time.
Yeah. There's moments where he kind of gets annoying, but then that makes sense because you would be annoying if you were had emotions for the first time and you couldn't control your laugh. So it works.
Mr.
It's annoying, but it works in an annoyingly good way.
They cut some corners because they reused the model explosion of the Klingon ship from Undiscovered Country, but the crashing of the Enterprise on the planet is a really cool sequence.
Yeah, no, it's a very awesome sequence. I thought it was cooler than the sequence from Star Trek 3 when the Enterprise A crashes.
Coming up next is going to be in 8th place, Star Trek Insurrection. This was the follow-up to First Contact, which was a really successful turnout for the Next Generation crew. I just like the moral and ethical dilemma that plays out in this. The movie taps into the fears of aging and the fantasy of eternal life, and it asks questions like, do the needs of the many always outweigh the needs of the few? In this story, wartime has made the Federation desperate enough to violate the very principles in which it was founded. Yes, force relocating the Baku to steal the life-rejuvenating resources of their planet would benefit the Federation. But do the ends justify the means? Sadly, the execution doesn't match the potential of this concept. Yeah, and they had Jonathan Frakes back, who did a great job on First Contact, but unfortunately he couldn't really pull the reins on this one. They couldn't get ILM to do the effects. And it shows. The effects are barely above the standards of a television episode.
Yeah, especially considering how good the effects were in First Contact. In the next film, there'd be subpar effects compared to that. Yeah, it's noticeable.
And the villains were kind of lame. They were basically like, I guess, commenting on like plastic surgery, because like they kept using plastic surgery to try to look younger, except they looked like shit.
Yeah. I don't know. When this movie first came out, I really liked it, but going back and watching it, there's definitely a lot of things that bother me. Admittedly, the Federation does some douchey shit. I am not going to deny that. But the Baku, they annoy me. One, even when their village is being attacked, they still refuse to use weapons to defend themselves. I get your non-technology, but an entire race is trying to literally blow you off the surface of your planet, and none of you will pick up a fucking gun.
You just gotta play.
Yeah, what the hell? Come on, Data had way better character development moments in some of the previous films and in the show where, like, it was just like a little throw-in they added for, like, to give, oh, look, we got a kid now. Stop pushing kids on Star Trek fans, okay? Will Wheaton paid for years for your mistakes.
Obviously, the last one was dark, so they tried to bring a little humor to this. Unfortunately, not all the humor works. Coming in the 7th place is Star Trek Nemesis, the final Next Generation film.
Unfortunately.
Stuart Baird, the director, apparently the cast didn't really get along with him because he didn't watch the show, and he didn't really seem to have a grasp of it.
This movie really isn't a bad movie. It's just not exactly the best send-off for the next-gen crew, because this was their final film altogether. So yeah, it just for the final film for that crew, you wanted something more, and it didn't really deliver. It had a good concept, and nurture versus nature. Tom Hardy and Patrick Stewart played well off each other.
Mirror images of each other and stuff.
Yeah.
And Tom Hardy, I remember when I saw the movie, I was like, I don't know, the movie had issues, but who was that guy? He was great to Shinzon. He was intimidating. He displayed a maturity and a depth in his performance that went far beyond his years at the time. His complex relationship with Picard was at the heart of the movie. When those two were interacting is when this movie is at its very best.
I don't think he looked exactly like Stewart.
No.
Like, I know that they tried to give him like a prosthetic nose. Nothing in this one that kind of bugs me, and it's just a setup for Deanna to have a cool scene later so she can beat the bad guys. I'm sorry, this is like the 3rd time between the movies and the TV series where Deanna Troi, for lack of a better term, gets psychically raped. Ugh.
Just so she can later get into his head to know where they are to shoot them. I don't think the before stuff really worked either, like Data's other lost brother, but I understand that was a setup to kind of have a little search for Spock, hope that maybe Data's still alive after he dies. Finally, Riker and Troy get married in this movie, and Wesley Crusher is in the background, just kind of waving.
Well, Whedon, getting that paycheck.
It seemed that the creative team attempted to throw together elements from Star Trek's greatest hits for this movie's story. They borrowed elements of the Wrath of Khan and its cat-and-mouse space battles, as well as a villain to serve as a yin to the hero's yang. However, it also borrowed from the Undiscovered Country with a final threat to resolve a conflict between the Federation and one of its greatest enemies. But the problem, I think, was that it felt too recycled and old hat to many fans. I personally feel like the movie gets more hate than it deserves. I admit it has issues, but overall I really enjoyed it.
Coming in at number 6, the 2009 reboot, Star Trek. There's a part of me that is bugged by the fact that this movie really in no way tries to examine the human condition or anything, or ask really questions about what it is to be human. There's a kind of a not even a sprinkling, like a grain thrown in there of the whole, like, their fates have been changed. But overall, this movie is just a sci-fi action-adventure film. And for what it is, honestly, I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. I thought it was a good time. I thought all the actors did their parts well. There's, naturally things I disagree with, but I don't know, I got a kick out of it. This is just me getting hardcore Star Trek-y. I don't like how this new version of the Enterprise A is actually 4 times bigger than the original one, and the engine room looks like shit. But beyond that, I really enjoyed the film.
This movie was actually beloved by a very large amount of people. It transcended beyond the barrier of just being a Trek movie. Yeah. It attracted general audiences. And I understand why they love it. I have issues with it because I feel like Abrams did not respect a lot of elements of Star Trek. They destroyed Vulcan! One of the most iconic planets, and one of the most important planets in the mythology of Star Trek, they destroy right from the get-go. J.J. Abrams said in the making of this movie that he is not a Star Trek fan, he is a Star Wars fan. And he described Star Trek as classical music and Star Wars as rock and roll. And he's like, I want to bring rock and roll to Star Trek. This certainly should call into question if he was really the right director for this movie. I understand a lot of credit's due that the series was dead and he did bring it back. He brought a lot of, commercial sensibility. It was an exciting, fun ride. So you gotta give him credit, I guess. But as a hardcore Trekker, as one of those people, I had a lot of petty little issues, like the Uhura-Spock relationship, Scotty having a little helper. The villain's plot was also way too easily foiled in the finale. I have very mixed feelings about the whole fractured alternate reality plot device in this. I can appreciate the sci-fi element to it, but I'm a purist, and something about this is really unsatisfying to me. You know everything that you loved about the original continuity? Fuck it. The movie worked as a commercial fun ride.
Yeah. I mean, it got me excited for the next one, even though we already discussed it was a letdown. So, next one we have, at number 5, Star Trek IV, The Voyage Home.
The concept about saving the humpback whales came from the mind of Leonard Nimoy, who was returning to the director's chair after a successful turn directing the third film, The Search for Spock. And I thought he did a really great job wrapping an important message inside a really fun adventure in this one. Totally came back with a very different Star Trek movie. I mean, it's hard to rank this movie with the other ones because they all are sci-fi action films. This one's a comedy.
You're not exactly catching us at our best.
That much is certain.
And it's a breath of fresh air after how dark the last two films were.
I mean, the original series, they had plenty of funny moments. These funny moments to break up the tension. The catalyst for the adventure is Earth is being destroyed by some kind of gigantic alien probe. So it's funny, like, we start with a point of tension. You know, Spock's back from the dead. He's trying to regain his memories. They're going back to Earth to, like, stand trial. Earth's being destroyed. Time travel, and all these fun moments just happen.
It is a whale out of water story.
Everybody remember where we parked.
Time travel always makes it into Star Trek, and a lot of times they do it very well and it's awesome. And this one's cool. They come to our time period, 1986, the year the movie came out. They're interacting with people of then. It's a lot of fun seeing them trying to, like, understand our 80s culture. Like the scene where Spock jumps into the whale tank and mind melds with the fucking whales.
Computer. He grabs the mouses, trying to talk.
That scene's great. I love that fucking scene. It's awesome.
Nuclear whistles.
God damn it, I'm sorry.
Solid movie. As a matter of fact, it's a lot of people's favorites. It was actually the most financially successful Star Trek film of that time, and I think, adjusted for inflation, I think it still is, actually. Coming up at number 4th place is Star Trek III, The Search for Spock.
Yeah, this is a big one.
Leonard Nimoy thought he was done. He was told that he was going to be dead, and they threw in that little remember moment at the end of Wrath of Khan to give a possibility. The only way he was going to come back is he made a deal with them that he would also direct the film. Otherwise, we wouldn't have had any more Spock in the Star Trek universe. That's how they convinced him. And for a first time out, pretty damn solid.
Yeah.
They had a great bad guy, Christopher Lloyd, as the Klingon villain. Christopher Lloyd, man, I mean, such a random actor to be a villain in Star Trek.
Well, yeah, as people gotta remember, this is kind of before Back to the Future happened, so people, at this time, he was probably just mostly known for his character in Taxi, yes. That character was straight up goofy weird, so yeah, for him to play a villain, they, at the time, probably showed the American audience this actor's range, so yeah.
Yeah, and you gotta give the Star Trek series credit at this point, because they were taking risks. I mean, you know, you kill Spock in the last movie, of course they bring him back, but in this movie, they kill Kirk's son, David.
Yeah.
That was a big moment. You Klingon bastard, you killed my son!
Yeah.
And they blew up the Enterprise, I mean,
yeah,
you know, which was pretty huge at the time. That was a beloved ship by the fans.
Which it was ironic, because if you remember at the beginning of the first film, Star Trek The Motion Picture, they just said they overhauled it. Once again, we get to see William Shatner do his stunts, or at least his stunts double from behind. No, there's a cool fight scene with him and the Klingon commander, you know, Kirk kicking Klingon ass, as he does. Pretty cool. The only thing that I will say that is kind of disappointing about it is the end, when he's like, I have had enough of you! It's like, falling on the green screen, like,
I guess he was rocking the gut and the girdle back then.
Oh, yeah, no,
we leave a shirt on now.
Yeah, yes, no, it does not come off.
The Genesis stuff, it wasn't completely explained how it could resurrect Spock.
Yeah, one of the major plot elements of this one was McCoy having Spock's psychic soul inside of him. I mean, it was always fun to see those two characters interact because they're such complete, utter opposites. But then, you know, because McCoy gets so easily annoyed with him, but then to have Spock inside him, you see his annoyance reach whole new levels, because he could just always walk away from Spock, but now he can't, because now he's in the fucking side of him. The ultimate test that, you know, as much as, you know, they would get on each other's nerves, or really just maybe McCoy's nerves, that how much he does care about Spock, and he's a true friend, you know, the lengths he went to bring Spock back from the dead. Coming in at number 3, we've got Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country, the last film of the original cast.
Cry havoc, and let's slip the dogs of war! Christopher Plummer is the bad guy. A Klingon that loves Shakespeare.
This is a good film because for the last film of the original cast, they just had them go up against their classic adversaries, the Klingons, but in this one, there's more at stake here because they're trying not to be adversaries anymore. There's a chance here for universal peace because the Klingon Empire's taken a huge hit because their main energy supply planet blew up, causing a radiation wave, and now their home planet is going to get toast. So they go to the Federation for help because otherwise they're going to die off in several decades. And it's a really interesting plot because you have Kirk and his crew that have had so many encounters with the Klingons.
Negative experience, especially with his son David being killed by the Klingons. He has not forgiven them.
They're animals, Jim. They are dying.
So it's this really thing about letting go of the past and moving forward for peace for future generations. And of course the Klingons are not exactly down for it either.
And of course this movie is a giant commentary on the fall of communist Russia, the USSR, and Chernobyl incident. This movie shows, fresh off the gates of war, the hostile resentment that breeds inside you during wartime. And they use that against Kirk. The people that are conspiring to keep this war lasting are using Kirk's hatred of the Klingons to set him up, for the death of a diplomat. This is a very political Star Trek movie, probably the most political, and it's also just very relevant, especially for the time, because this was not too far after the end of the Cold War. The movie is once again directed by Nicholas Meyer, who directed The Wrath of Khan. Once again, bringing a lot of class to the film. I think there's some great locations they shot in. I love the ice planet. Where they're being held prisoner, Kirk and McCoy.
Yeah.
I just liked the plot. I was really engaged. I wanted to know what was going on. Who were the villains? Who were the conspirators? And, I thought they did a great job putting that all together.
Yeah, it's a really good movie. Special effects were pretty good, actually. We get to see Sulu with his ship. He's a captain now. We get to see some really great acting moments. The senior crew, the Enterprise, are eating with the Klingon delegates, and it's just nothing but tension and awkwardness. Really great scene, Captain Kirk still getting hot young alien ass. Come on.
Well, we don't know if she was young and hot. She was a shapeshifter. She could have been old and ugly, but make herself look hot.
True.
And then Kirk gets to fight himself. I like it when he's fighting himself. It's like, I can't believe I kissed you. He's like...
Must have been your last ambition.
Yeah. The movie also does what it ultimately had to do, which was tie up the original cast storyline. I thought that finishing it off that way was a great choice. Coming in second place is Star Trek First Contact.
Love this movie.
Love this movie too.
Damn, it's good.
The line must be drawn here.
This is the movie that got me into Star Trek. I was really into zombies and action films. Independence Day just came out, and this alien invasion story with like this, zombie-like race that are trying to assimilate us just captured my imagination, and I was so into it. And Patrick Stewart just bringing his A game.
Oh!
The line must be drawn here. This drawn no far. And I will make them pay for what they've done.
Oh shit, I'm Captain Ahab. And of course, in that same scene, one of the greatest deliveries of the word no in cinematic history.
Jean-Luc, blow up the damn ship!
No! No! Oh my god, I love that. Oh, damn it.
They kind of just throw you right into the thick of the action, and you have to kind of catch up to it a little bit, but like once you catch up, the movie's just delivering. The opening with the Borg cube.
Oh god, that was a great opening bout. Special effects were fantastic.
Yeah, they were great.
The introduction of the Enterprise E. Oh my, the design on that ship
was cool.
Slick and badass as fuck.
Jonathan Frakes rocked this directing-wise. Everybody rocked this. It was so good. And Alice Krige as the villain of the movie, the Borg Queen, she just did a great job. She was sexy, but she was dangerous. I just thought she was great.
Watch your futures end.
Let's rock and roll.
And James Cromwell, coming hot off of his Academy Award for Babe, just so funny as Cochrane.
He was a blast. Him getting drunk and like, the guy who ushered in a new era for humanity likes his alcohol.
Yeah, he was great, and his love of classic rock, the scene in the bar where he gets Troy drunk. There's so many good moments in this movie. Yeah. The movie has this amazing balancing act of being an epic action sci-fi adventure, but also having times for levity. There's a lot of humor in this movie.
Friggin' Jean-Luc Picard with a Tommy gun. Ah! Boom, 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 bam, bitch!
They also gave a great storyline for Data. Like that Data's having biological skin grafted to his body so he can experience pleasure, physical pleasure, and pain.
Resistance is futile.
His battle with his emotion chip, which now he can turn on and off, which they have some jokes about also, which are great. His relationship with Picard in this movie is really strong. The relationship with everyone in this movie is really strong. The Worf-Picard relationship is great too.
You coward. If you were any other man, I would kill you where you stand.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And he would. Worf would.
The fight on the exterior of the Enterprise where they have magnetic boots.
Oh.
Clever.
Yeah, great. I have a younger brother. He's not a nerdy type like I am. Not really. There's a few things he likes. But we both love Star Trek First Contact. When we were kids, it was the only Star Trek thing we both liked to watch together. This movie is very special to me in that sense.
I almost wanted to put it in first place. Okay, but I have to admit, The one that defined the formula for, the movies, at least. And really is the only reason why the series is even alive to this day. Is
Galaxy Quest!
Worthy mention, but no, Vincent. You're forgetting a little movie that comes in our first place spot called Star Trek The Wrath of Khan!
You knew that was coming. You knew.
Yes, this is kind of like the Goldfinger to this franchise. This is what set the standard for Star Trek. You had this little episode that I think would have been overlooked by most called Space Seed, with a great performance by a little actor.
Ricardo Montalban.
There is no reason necessarily to continue the storyline forward. They gave him his own planet, and it seemed like he was going to make a little civilization on it and everything. It was genetically enhanced people. And you thought maybe he was going to live happily ever after with that officer that he fell in love with. But no, things didn't go so well after Kirk left him there. He left him on that planet, buried alive. His wife perished. It became a desert wasteland, fueled this rage for vengeance that he's going to unleash upon Kirk and his crew.
Well, they do throw in Kirk's personal story about him, like, he's middle-aged now, he's kind of a midlife crisis, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, again, the exploration of the human condition, which, very Star Trek, you layer in this story with it, and, this movie explores life, and death, and friendship, and rebirth.
Big part of the film, Spock dies at the end. Very huge moment in Star Trek history.
The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few.
Or the one.
They gave Spock a great story, too, and it really felt like a really fitting, good end for his character, but, hey, he's too beloved. We can't let him die like that.
And before this movie came out, it was leaked that they were going to kill Spock in this movie, and Star Trek fans were freaking out. So that's what was so clever about the first scene in the movie, where they're on the simulation, the Kobayashi Maru, and it's like, no, not just Spock died. Fucking everybody got killed except for Kirk. Right after the simulation, Kirk walks up and Spock is like, aren't you supposed to be dead? That's a little nod, to the whole Spock dying. So that scene is great because it throws you off. It's like, oh, he's not really dying, and then he really does die. So yeah, so it's kind of if you fell for it, you were it was like boomerang, pow. It's like, no, he's still dead. Damn it. So really cool stuff in that movie.
Khan and Kirk are never on the same screen together. They completely interact through view screens. Which is interesting, because he's his ultimate nemesis, and they never actually are face-to-face. But the physical fight is played out over an epic space battle.
Yes.
It could have gone the way of Star Wars. It could have gone for huge, fast-paced space action, but instead they decided to go smaller with this cat-and-mouse game in this big nebula cloud.
Yeah,
and just
a great scene.
Yeah, it was such a great space battle, and it really defined what space battles in Star Trek are. It's a strategy game. It's a game of intelligence.
This movie didn't have technically that big of a budget because they used so much money on the motion picture that they weren't given as big of a budget.
Yeah, it was smaller.
Yeah, there's actually scenes like the scene where Kirk and Spock meet right after the simulation, and there's a view of them from the other side of the room. A lot of stuff in that room were actually miniatures, and they just shot it at an angle to make it look life-size and stuff like that. That's what they were working with.
They only had Ricardo Montalban for 10 days of shooting. And I think they shot him completely separate from when they shot with William Shatner, which is funny, because I think the people they were interacting with was probably some production assistant reading from the script. Yeah. So it was probably I've done far worse than kill you. I've hurt you. But man, when you cut it together, those two just played off each other so well. And
it was awesome.
Once again, Nicholas Meyer really got the space opera. He really understood how to bring emotion and drama and humanity to this story. I know that Gene Roddenberry had some issue with him because he felt that he militarized Star Trek universe a little too much, but I don't know. I was totally okay with that personally.
Yeah.
It is the one Star Trek movie that all other Star Trek movies are compared to.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you're not a Star Trek fan, you've probably seen moments in this film parodied or quoted, and it's Star Trek, even if you don't know much about it. How many times have you seen it? Khan been parodied. So it's one of those movies that is dug deep into pop culture.
And this concludes our rankings of the Star Trek universe. We went through the entire series, and now we are all set and ready to progress forward into the next 50 years of Star Trek, starting off with Star Trek Beyond.
Of course, we will be doing a review for that, so keep your eyes out for it, and we will be discussing where that movie fits in our ranking, so don't worry. We hope you guys like this video. Please like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and of course subscribe to our channel here. But until next time, I'm Vincent.
And I'm Mike.
And this has been
Review of the Nerds. Live long.